This is so important, you have to pay attention to this. There is a reason why this is being documented here. Sha'ul is the only major figure of his stature whose lineage is almost completely erased from the historical record. Who is Sha'ul's father? A historical mystery with only one possible answer. Where Hadabar preserves genealogies for nearly every significant man, prophets, kings, priests, patriarchs, and even minor figures, Sha'ul stands alone in a cloud of silence. The only genealogical information he gives about himself is in Philippians chapter 3 verse 5, where he states that he is of the tribe of Benjamin, and also in Acts chapter 23 verse 6, where he gives the single statement that opens the door to the mystery. I am a Pharisee, son of Pharisees. He didn't say son of a Pharisee. He didn't say from a Pharisaic family, but he said son of Pharisees, which means plural. This tells us that his father was a Pharisee, his grandfather was a Pharisee, his family was deeply embedded in Pharisaic tradition, and his lineage was multi-generational, elite, and ideologically consistent. Yet, no names are given. The key that changes everything is Roman citizenship by birth. In Acts 22:28, Sha'ul reveals the second crucial piece. I was born a Roman citizen. This means his father or grandfather held Roman citizenship. Citizenship among the Yahudim was extremely rare before 70 CE. Citizenship required wealth, political cooperation, or imperial favor. His family was not merely Pharisaic. They were elite Pharisees. This combination, Pharisee plus Roman citizen plus pre-70 CE, is so rare that it's nearly non-existent. And yet, there are no names given. Here are some key points about what we don't have. There is no ancient source, not Christian, not Yahudy, not Greco-Roman, that gives his father's name, his grandfather's name, his mother's name, his siblings, his extended family, a genealogical list, or any bloodline connection to the Hillel dynasty. This includes the Renewed Covenant, Josephus, Talmudic literature, early Christian writers, pseudo-Clementine texts, Gnostic writings, Roman records, and rabbinic genealogies. There's absolutely nothing. This is unprecedented. Even minor figures in Hadabar have more preserved ancestry than Sha'ul. Sha'ul says that he was born a Roman citizen. Okay, we got that. This means his father or grandfather was a citizen before him. We got that too. But Pharisees were generally anti-Hellenistic. Roman citizenship required cooperation with Rome. Very few Yahudim held citizenship before the Flavian period, which is 70 CE. Sha'ul's father is an anomaly. Unless his father was someone whose status, wealth, and political connections made citizenship possible. So let's go over what we do have here, because we got a profile, but we don't have a name. So let's see if we can narrow this down. The only solid facts that we have are, he's from the tribe of Benjamin, his father was a Pharisee, his grandfather was a Pharisee, his family was Roman citizens, location where he was is in Tarsus, and his status was wealthy, elite, and educated. This profile is so specific that it should be easy to match historically, yet, again, no name appears, unless the name was intentionally omitted. Here's the critical question. Who was a Pharisee that was born before Sha'ul, that had Roman status and high-level authority? The unavoidable historical conclusion, when all the criteria are combined, Pharisaic lineage, multi-generational Pharisee family, born before Sha'ul, with elite wealth and status, with political authority, with possible Roman citizenship before 70 CE, with influence over Roman-aligned temple leadership, with wealth and power to educate a child in Tarsus, and deep Hellenistic exposure and rhetorical and philosophical training, only one man fits this profile. Rabban Gamaliel the Elder, the Nazi or patriarch of the Sanhedrin, the grandson of Hillel the Elder, aka the Babylonian, the leader of the Pharisees, respected by all people, trusted by Rome, politically powerful, the only Pharisee with enough status to plausibly hold Roman citizenship before 70 CE. He is the only historical match. But is there evidence that Gamaliel was a Roman citizen? Does it actually say that? Well, no ancient text explicitly calls him one, but the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. He held a Roman-recognized office as the Nazi. He influenced Roman-aligned Sadducean leadership. You can see that in Acts chapter 5. Rabban Gamaliel the Elder's dynasty had diplomatic ties with Roman authorities, and the House of Hillel, the schools that Gamaliel inherited, was granted a rare exception to study Greek wisdom, something only politically connected families received. And lastly, he operated at the highest levels of the Yahudi-Roman interaction. If any Pharisee before 70 CE could have been a Roman citizen, it was Gamaliel. No other Pharisee even fits half of the criteria. Therefore, only one man in recorded history fits the profile of Sha'ul's father, and it's Rabban Gamaliel the Elder. Rabban Gamaliel the Elder fits all the criteria. If Sha'ul was Gamaliel's biological son, as historically attested based on the criterion extracted from Sha'ul's own testimony, then the Sanhedrin, especially the Pharisaic bloc, would have known exactly who he was. They would have known Sha'ul was heir to the Hillel dynasty, son of the Nazi's household, groomed for leadership, Roman-connected, and elite, wealthy, multilingual, and politically valuable. So the question becomes, if the Sanhedrin knew, why wasn't his conversion politically explosive? Why wasn't it a scandal? Why wasn't it recorded? And why wasn't Sha'ul executed as a traitor? Well, the logical next question to ask is this. What if Sha'ul's appeal to Caesar and bypassing of the Supreme Yahudy Council was not a betrayal to them at all, but a coordinated operation? Let's examine that. Number 1. Sha'ul's appeal to Caesar was not normal, it was strategic. A Pharisee who suddenly joins a sect that the Sanhedrin considers dangerous should have been tried, condemned, silenced, or executed. Instead, Sha'ul appeals to Caesar in Rome. He is escorted by Roman soldiers across Rome and he traveled with protection, not chains. He lives in comfort on house arrest in Rome. He receives visitors freely in Rome, and he teaches his doctrine openly to those visitors without obstruction or intrusion in Rome. In his letters he wrote in at home in Rome. Sha'ul remains untouched until 63 CE in Rome. His survival contradicts Roman precedent. Rome executed troublemakers, especially those tied to sectarian unrest. And he disappears from the record just before Nero's persecution in 64 CE. Rome executed Yahusha because he was not a citizen, and the Sanhedrin framed him as a political threat. Now Sha'ul, as a citizen, should have faced even greater scrutiny than that, yet he faced none. Therefore, Sha'ul's treatment by Roman political authorities is not the fate of a rogue Pharisee, but it is the fate of a protected asset. There's more to that, but we'll get back to that. Number 2. His conversion would not be a scandal, it would be an assignment. If Sha'ul was Gamaliel's son, as clear evidence suggests, then his conversion would not be a betrayal, his appeal to Caesar would not be treason, his mission would not be rogue, and his survival would not be accidental. Instead, it would be a sanctioned infiltration of a growing sect that the Sanhedrin could not control. And this aligns perfectly with Sha'ul's access to the high priest, Sha'ul's letters of authority, Sha'ul's cross-regional jurisdiction, Sha'ul's Roman protection, Sha'ul's ability to move between Yahudy and Roman worlds, and Sha'ul's survival under Roman custody. A man with this kind of profile does not simply convert and walk away. He is sent. Number 3. His house arrest in Rome looks less like punishment and more like placement. Sha'ul's Roman imprisonment was a private home, on house arrest in a private home, paid for by someone, guarded but unrestricted, open to visitors, come one, come all. It was a base of operations, a place to write letters for years, a place to receive intelligence, and a place to influence Roman officials. This is not a prison. This is not a prison. He was not imprisoned like a criminal. He was housed like a diplomat. This was a safe house. It is not exaggeration. This is exactly how Rome treated diplomats, protected citizens, political assets, informants, high-value prisoners. That is historical Roman procedure. And the timing of his housing is suspicious, is it not? He remains there from 61 until 63 CE, within 1 year of the Great Fire in Rome in 64 CE, which Nero blames the Torah-obedient followers of Yahushua Mashiach for starting, and then begins the first empire-wide persecution of them? If Sha'ul was gathering intelligence on the leaders of the Torah-obedient followers of Yahushua Mashiach, especially the 12, then his presence in Rome just before the crackdown is not coincidence at all. It is positioning. Number 4. Concealing his genealogy would not have been about shame. It would have been about strategy. It is highly important to understand the implications of revealing that Sha'ul was Gamaliel's son, because revealing that would definitely expose a Pharisaic infiltration of the Torah-obedient followers of Yahushua Mashiach, a coordinated intelligence operation. It would have revealed a political alliance between the Hillel dynasty and Rome. It would have revealed a controlled attempt to redirect or neutralize the Torah-obedient followers of Yahushua Mashiach from within. And it would have revealed a dynastic involvement in the earliest assemblies to retain power. This would have been far more explosive than a simple scandal. It would reveal that the most powerful Pharisaic family in the history of the world placed one of their own on the inside of the movement of the Torah-obedient followers of Yahushua Mashiach, and Rome protected him. It goes without saying, that is not something at all that the Sanhedrin or Rome or even later Roman Christianity would want to be preserved. Number 5. Why the silence makes sense under this scenario. If Sha'ul was Gamaliel's son, as clear evidence suggests, then the Sanhedrin would not publicize it. Rome would not publicize it. Later Roman Christian editors would bury it. Rabbinic tradition would erase it, because revealing it would expose a political operation, a dynastic plan of betrayal, a Roman Pharisaic alliance, a manipulation of the early Torah-obedient Yahusha movement, and most importantly of all, it would expose a reason to distrust Sha'ul's authority. That is not about embarrassment. That is about control. Number 6. This scenario actually strengthens the case. If Sha'ul's appeal to Caesar was part of a larger, coordinated plan, his genealogy would be intentionally erased. His connection to Gamaliel would be hidden, other than the fact that he was trained by him, of course. His Roman citizenship would be downplayed, other than the fact that he used it to appeal to Caesar, of course. But who could track the reasoning behind it? His Pharisaic lineage would be obscured, and his political role would be sanitized, because the truth would reveal. Sha'ul was not merely a convert. He was a strategically positioned insider with dynastic, Pharisaic, and Roman backing. And that truth would destabilize the Hillel dynasty before the involvement of the power transition into the Church of Rome later. And the Sadducees, who would still retain power over the Yahudim, who rejected Yahusha until 70 AD when Rome came in and besieged Jerusalem. It would destabilize the early church assemblies, which was the origin of the new Gentile doctrine based on Sha'ul's teachings, not to be confused with the Torah-obedient followers of Yahusha Mashiach, including the Gentile converts. It would destabilize the Roman narrative, which was the establishment of a unifying doctrine that dismisses Torah. It would destabilize the Christian narrative, which was the universalized, paganized Roman doctrine established based on Sha'ul's Gentile teachings. And it would destabilize the entire historical understanding of who Sha'ul really is. Understanding who Sha'ul's father was is the key to understanding Sha'ul's teaching and why he taught them. It provides insight to why Sha'ul bypassed the Yahudy council to appeal to Caesar during a time where the Supreme Yahudy Council had struggled to retain religio-political control over Jerusalem. It also brings to attention the 15-generation dynasty of Hillel the Babylonian, which ends with a transition of power to a rising imperial religious superpower in Rome. Sha'ul's genealogy was hidden not to protect the Hillel line from shame, but to protect the political machinery behind his mission, and to prevent later generations from discovering that operation. The silence is not accidental, it's strategic. So who is Sha'ul? We have learned about his background. Now let's methodically examine Sha'ul's letters to find out what his teachings were all about.